87, Howard Cross.
Throwing deep it is. Complete at the 10-yard line.
To this already, the final segment of The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business love and getting you ready for Monday morning, bringing some great content, great interviews, like we do every morning, Monday through Friday here on The Price of Business. Love it when Chris Kidd comes in. He's always got some cool guests, interesting stories. Frankly, these are stories that you can hear on ESPN and national media and CNBC, and we're delighted that we get to have Chris Kidd come in. He's a financial coach extraordinaire. His website is chriskidd, that's K-I-D-D, chriskidd.com, CHRISKIDD.com. Chris, as always, glad to have you on the program.
And as always, I'm glad to be here.
Tell us about your guest today, another great one.
Well, my guest today is Howard Cross. He had 13 years in the NFL, played with the New York Giants, including the 1990 Super Bowl team where they beat my brother's Buffalo Bills. That's his favorite team. And they also, he had experience with the I'm trying to remember what year it was, but they fell to the Baltimore Ravens in the second Super Bowl. But today, Howard is a commercial real estate broker, or I believe it was commercial real estate broker for Cressa in New York, and all kind of other activities, including co-hosting a show This Week in Football on the Yes Network.
Yeah, it was a 2000 team that lost to Baltimore Ravens 34-7, and I know you love to be reminded of that. Howard, welcome to the program.
That's what bring me in, guys. Thanks a lot.
That's a fine how do you do. Hey, so tell us about how you've parlayed your football career into business.
Well, it's really interesting. You know, back in the good old days, as I say, because I feel like I'm an old man now, but back in the day when jobs were so uncertain in the NFL, you know, before the salary cap, when they said they wanted to cut you, they could actually cut you that day and kind of move on. There was no guaranteed money, so to speak. We constantly try to figure out ways to find things to do after football, because you never knew when your last day you could be cut in the middle of a season, in the middle of a week before a game, anything could happen. So we constantly in the off season we would take up internships and do a multitude of jobs. Some guys went back to school. Some guys basically tried to find odd and end jobs. Some guys didn't do anything. I was one of the guys who decided, I went to a couple classes, and I tried to figure out from some of the people that I'd met during golf tournaments, some of the people I'd met during events, they would always say, think about, working with us. Would you consider come work with us? I'm like, well, yeah. So they would give me internships. I've done everything from help companies that turned out they went public to working in NFL offices to acting for a couple seasons. I tried to do as many things I possibly could think of, and try to see what I liked, what I didn't like. Even considered becoming a teacher. So it was pretty much I did as much as I possibly could.
All right, your question, Chris.
How'd you get into the real estate business?
Pretty much what happens when you get into the real estate business, I was being recruited by a couple companies back when I first started. How do I explain this the best? A couple companies were reaching out to me. I'd known a lot of people through a lot of the charity events. I'd done a lot of corporate speaking engagements where I spoke to a multitude of companies, whether it was finance and insurance, whether it was industrial, whatever it was. They would ask me to come in and speak on different things on life in the football game, life after the game, and I would, try to have an interesting story and tailor it to whatever they needed. So during one of those events, somebody saw me and they were like, it'd be great if you would consider coming to work with us. Went on a couple of interviews, didn't know if it was something I could do or not, and I was just kind of wavering on it. Then they knew someone at the Giants, one of the owners, I think Mr. Mara, and he called me and says, you should consider doing this. This is a great opportunity for you, and they really want you to do it. And I'm like, okay. So I went out and I tried it. It became one of those things where it was a huge learning curve for me, because the idea was the person who has contacts is the most valuable person. He's the person that is able to open doors, start the process, and get things going. Well, for the first 2 years that I was in the industry, I was making cold calls. I was like, why am I calling these people? They're like, well, this is how the business works. And I had a problem with the way they believed the business worked when I first started out. But, later on I got to meet some really good people, my partner now, and he was like, well, if you already know the people, why are you cold calling people? I'm like, I don't know. He goes, stop doing that and let's actually start, doing the, as we call, mapping system. We started mapping people we know, mapping deals in the market, see who actually is going to need work and need our services somewhere down the road, and get to know the people and see if they're, people move constantly in this industry. CEOs leave one job, go to another job. So CFOs move from job to job. COOs move from job to job. These are the guys that I'm out and I'm seeing and spending time with. So get to know them, and then you get to know the quote-unquote facilities people along the way.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, you were mentioning about the fact that, how perilous sports was, professional sports. And I don't care if it was football, basketball, or whatever. But I remember when I was a kid, I collected sports cards, football, baseball, that type of thing. And on the back, it would say things like, on the off season, Joe Schmo is an insurance agent. On the off season, Jim Bowe is a car salesperson. It's ludicrous to think such now. But that was the culture all the way up until really the 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah,
or really the 90s.
Well, think about it. I think 85 or whenever the strike was, I think the minimum salary was something like 35 or 40 grand a year. So you really, even back in the mid 80s, you weren't really making a living if you're making 40 grand a year. I mean, you may be away at some stadium or some field or some state after taxes and interest and everything else, plus you have to have an apartment, you probably have a car. You didn't have much money, so you had to do something else besides play ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris?
And especially in New York, the prices up there are,
Exactly.
You got to make twice as much.
That's true. Where you live in the country, the guys, the New York guys, New York, New Jersey guys, they had it, pretty stiff with the earning potential. And then you think of anybody who lived in California, it was brutal. So those guys would really have to have more than one idea. Instead of just playing ball, they have to be ready to do a multitude of things and have ways to, earn money for their families.
Yeah, let me ask you, what are some of the bigger mistakes, the more blatant mistakes that professional athletes make when it comes to preparing for their futures or failing to prepare for their future?
Well, it's not really athletes, so to speak, it's mostly people who, in every walk of any business that you can think of, we all do this staging process. We come in at the lowest level, we earn our way up to the next level, then we keep earning until we max out, and maybe we'll change jobs to earn more. We're constantly trying to, move up the quote-unquote corporate ladder. Well, a person who's an athlete, an entertainer, or whatever else, they're giving their money right up front.
Right.
So there's no growth process. All the other processes, when you're moving up the ladder, you learn to budget.
It's like a lottery ticket, isn't it?
Yeah, you learn to budget, you learn to save, you learn all these things you need to learn to survive. And once you start to make money, you kind of have this built-in education, so to speak, of how you do your finances so you can make it. Even some of those guys still have problems later down the road, but that's kind of what we're missing in this industry where, whether it's, like I said, it's basically entertainment, sports is included. It's just we're missing the education of how to make it and come up through it to be the person you need to be financially, how to grow up financially. And then when you're given everything all at once, it's hard to grow up financially unless you have some really, really good people in your corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's wrap it up. Chris Kidd, by the way, give your website again, and we also want Howard to give his website.
My website is chriskidd.com. That's CHRISKIDD.com. There's tons of information there and stuff on me, so anybody that wants to come check it out, feel free.
Howard, your website?
Well, I'm at hcross@cressa.com, and you can look me up. You can look up our company at cressa.com. We are the world's largest tenant rep brokerage firm, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I love your passion about it. I think it's awesome to see how you've parlayed that into a career. You also have a great program on the Yes Network in New York as well.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We've been doing that for about 12 years. This Week in Football, a bunch of good guys have come and gone through the show. I'm pretty much the mainstay there. It is a lot of fun. It's very interesting. We started off doing it live, which was really crazy, but now we actually do tapings, and it's really good. Great show.
Yep. Well, you're a great guy, Howard Cross. Thanks for being with us.
All right, no problem. Have a great one.
You too. Chris Kidd, thanks for bringing us great guests. And what a great way to begin the Monday morning, inspiration and information.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. All right. When we come back tomorrow, we're going to have much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com, and you've been listening to The Price of Business.